Alright, I'd just like to thank you all for your show of interest in this effect from the previous video with all your thumb ups and feedback. I'm sorry I didn't get this tutorial up earlier. I've been kind of busy lately, but anyways, here we are, so I'll get right into it. So first off, I'd like to mention though that with this trick, you're going to actually have two options, or basically two options, on how you can sort of present how this trick is going to unfold. It's just obviously a matter of personal choice. I'll show you what the two basic scenarios are. So what we did, of course, is we had the spectator shuffle the deck while your back was turned, and then have them just peek at a card as close to the middle of the packet as possible, memorize that card, close the deck up, square it up, and then you turn back around and they hand the deck back to you. Of course, to the spectator, you have no clue what card they could have glanced at. All they know is you know that it must be some card in the middle of the deck somewhere, but it's in their mind to themselves. So what you're going to do is you're going to casually cut a few cards off the top, and I'll get into the meaning behind that. And then what happens is you deal all the cards face up onto the table into 4 or 12 piles. Now the first scenario, like in the effect video I showed you, the memorized card ended up being on top of one of the piles. Now that's one scenario that'll happen. Their card will end up on top of any one of these piles. And I'll get into how you're going to make that happen. The other scenario that can happen, or what you can control to happen, and I actually prefer this other scenario, I think it looks more effective. Instead of the card landing, seemingly randomly on top of one of these face-up piles, their card will actually land within one of the piles. And it'll actually be the second card down from the top card on the face-up pile of any one of these piles. So that's the other way, and I think that would play out better, of course, and I'm sure you'd agree with me, because it just seems that much more, their card is that much more hidden because it's within the packet, which, it most likely should be anyways, being that, to the spectator, their card is just going to fall randomly inside one of the packets anyways. So it should be inside the packet. If it lands on the face of the packet, the other scenario way is fine, it works. I mean, it can happen, right? Obviously. But, it just seems that much more hidden and ineffective if their card is within the packet. So if it's going to be that way, like I said again, it's going to be the second card down from the top face card. Now, I'll just get into how you're going to make these two scenarios happen. For the card, their memorized card to actually end up face up on top of one of the packets, all you do after they've glanced at the middle card, and make sure you instruct to them, it's very important you instruct to them to cut at a card as closest to the middle of the deck as possible. That way it ensures that they're going to glance at a card that is within the 12 middle cards of the deck. You need to have them glance at one of the 12 middle cards of the deck, okay? So once they've done that, to have the card, if you prefer to have the card land face up, or on the top of one of the face up packets, which is kind of, I think, probably the way to go when you're first starting doing this effect. It's just easier to see the cards and everything. All you're going to do when you retain the deck of cards after they've peeked at their card, you're going to just casually slide off 20 cards off the top of the deck and then pass them down to the bottom of the pile. So it brings up those 12 cards right to the top of the face down deck. So then when you flip the deck over and you deal the cards face up, the last remaining 12 cards, the potential cards that they would have thought of, will end up on top of the rest of the packets. Okay, makes sense? Now, if you want it to end up the second card down, you're actually going to, instead of sliding 20 cards off the top of the face down deck before you turn the deck face up to deal, you're actually going to just slide 8 cards off the top of the deck and pass them to the bottom, and then turn the deck face up and continue, and then start the dealing. If you do the now, if you want to do the method with the second card from the face by sliding the 8 cards off the top, how this is going to work, when you deal the cards, you're going to have to count how many rounds of dealings you're doing before you actually arrive at starting to deal the potential cards they memorize. And they'll actually start on the second row. No, pardon me, they won't start on the second row. You're going to start placing the cards carefully down. Oh, here, let me just give you an example. This will be confusing if I just explain it. So what you're going to do after they've glanced at the card, you slide off just casually kind of slide off, or you could play like you're sort of overhand shuffling and you can just count 8 cards off the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, kind of like that, and then get on to dealing the cards. That'll bring those 12 potential cards that they would have memorized in the middle of the deck, second from the top of each of these piles, face-up piles. So what you're going to do is you're going to deal the cards. Now here's the second round of dealing we've just done, okay? The second round of 12 cards. And then you go on to the third round, just as normal. Now this is where it gets crucial here. On the fourth round of dealing, you deal the first row just as normal, like this, sort of semi-sloppy sort of piles. So keep them kind of spaced out. When you get to the middle row, this is where it's crucial that you place this last card that you're going to be dealing to the side of the card just below it, so you can see what that card is, okay? Don't make it too obvious, but just, you know, just enough so that you can see the value and the suit of that card just below the card you just set down, okay? You continue the same way for the next card that's showing the 4 of clubs, and you can kind of make it look a little more random, maybe have the card land here to show the 7 of clubs over here, for instance, so it doesn't look too like you're, you know, carefully trying to just show this one value here. You can, you know, change it up a bit to make it look like you're just not caring how you're setting the cards down, and you can just make sure that you see the value and the suit of the card just below the top face-up card, okay? So now we see those, and make sure you continue with the last 4 the same way with the top row now. And there you have it. So all those cards that are showing now, the second cards from the face-up, the top face-up cards, are all the 12 potential ones after you've moved the 8 cards from the top of the deck and turn the deck over and deal them out like that, okay? So that's how you know that their memorized card in this case is potentially any one of the second cards from the top of the face-up piles. Now, how do you decipher specifically what card they're thinking of? Well, of course, you're going to turn your back around. Now, you're going to play, before you turn your back around, to have them flip over one of the packet with their memorized card in it. What you're going to do is play like you're feeling for what pile their card is in. Now, this is your opportunity to do a little calculation, and this is where the practice is going to come in. But you'll get really good at this. I know you will, because it's not that hard. What you're going to do is you're going to look at, so I got the 9 of diamonds here. Okay, you're going to look at the potential cards that are peeking out. First, you can start out maybe with the values if you want, or the diamond, or the suits. But what you're going to do is, let's start out with the values for this example. I would silently to myself calculate. I'd add the value 9 to the next card that's sticking out here, 6, which of course gives me 15. Now, every time I get a total, if I total 13 or over, immediately subtract 13 from that total. It'll keep the total simplified. We want to keep the total under 13, okay? If you get exactly 13, then just cancel that 13 out to 0 and start again with whatever the next value is you got to add, okay? So we get 15, we get rid of 13 right away, we're down to 2. So we add the 2 to 7, which of course brings us to 9. We go to the 6 over here, brings us to 15. Now again, we get rid of 13 from 15 right away, we're down to 2 now. Add that to the 8, we're up to 10. We come to the 4 over here, brings us to 14 of course. Again, we're over 13, so we get rid of it, which brings us down to 1. We carry the 1 over to the 7 here, brings us to 8. Then to this 10, brings us to 18. Again, 13 from 18 brings us down to 5. The 5 over to the 8 now brings us to 13. Now that just cancels it out to 0. Now we start again with this jack, which of course represents 11. And then to the 9 here, so we're at 20. Again, 13 from 20, we get 7. And now we carry the 7 over lastly to the 4 here, which brings us to 11. So we can stay at 11 because we're not over 13. 11 is our secret key number for the valued total of all those cards, okay? So remembering 11, or you can just convert that to jack. I like to convert the key value to see it as a card value, because we're also going to do that for the suits. So basically we're going to work out a playing card that's going to represent the total cards that they would have memorized. Now we're going to go back and we're going to do this again very quickly, just looking at the suits. We were remembering jack, we go, and just as we're going to do the suits the exact same way, but we're going to look at the suits as numbered values 1 through 4. Now you can assign the values however you like. I do it in chased order with clubs, hearts, spades, diamonds. So clubs being 1, hearts being 2, spades being 3, and diamonds being 4. So we'll start off with this diamond here, which is 4. Now we're going to be subtracting the maximum value, which is 4 for the suits. So just the same way we did with 13 for the card values. For the suits, we're going to subtract 4 now. So since diamonds are 4, we can just treat those at like 0, because we're going to subtract 4 anyway, so just ignore the diamond. So diamond is 0, pass to the next diamond. That's also, of course, a 0. We just keep going with just nothing. Another diamond, still, again, nothing. And now finally we come to a club. That's 1, okay? 1 per club. Hearts are 2, so we add 2 to our 1 from the club. Brings us to 3. We bring our 3 over to this club, which is 1 plus 3, brings us to 4. Now we're at 4. Let's get rid of 4. Always subtracting 4, so we're at 0 again. We start fresh with this club at 1. We continue adding 1 to spade, which is 3. That brings us up to 4 again. So again, always get rid of the 4s. We're down to 0. Now we're at this club. We're at 1. 1 plus 2 for the heart, because hearts are 2. That gives us 3. Now we're at this club, which is 1, so 3 and 1 gives us 4. That now brings us down to 0 again, subtracting 4. And lastly, this suit, since we're at 0, hearts represent 2, so now we're just remembering 2. Or we're going to convert that number, the suit number, to heart, because it represents itself as 2. Okay, so now all we need to remember is Jack and Heart. Jack of Hearts is our key card for the total of the potential cards that they could have memorized. So we got Jack of Hearts in our mind. Now we say to the spectator, or you can come up with your own pad or whatever it is. My excuses I'm going to use for this example is I'm getting a sense of what pile or 2 piles potentially could have their card in it, but I don't know for sure. So I'm asking the spectator, I'm going to turn my back and ask the spectator to please just flip over their pile with their card in it, and just to carefully square up the pile and turn it face down. So let's just say for this example, while your back is turned, let's say their memorized card happens to be the 4 of clubs here. Okay, of course it's going to be one of the second cards from the top of the face-up packets. So we'll say 4 of clubs in this packet, obviously. So they're going to close it up. They're going to turn it over face down. They say, okay, they're ready. You turn back around. Of course, to the spectator, they assume you have no clue what those cards are, even though you looked at all the packets a moment ago for about a minute or so. They're not going to assume that you can memorize all that. So it's going to be pretty unbelievable to have them believe that you would have any clue. You might might know 1 card in that packet, but that's not going to give any clue, obviously, to what card they're thinking of, or which one of those cards in that packet could be their card they're thinking of. So you can also add, before you turn around, to have them place a card box over the packet too, just to add to the impossibility of even knowing what any of those cards could be. So you turn back around. You've got the Jack of Hearts in your mind as your key card. Now what you're going to do is you're going to do that same quick calculation again to decipher the second card. Well, now it's the second card from the bottom because it's turned over. And so what you're going to do is you simply, again, you're going to decipher the suit first. You're going to build it up by just getting the suit first. You don't want to reveal the value right away. You want to reveal the suit and then build it up to the value for the final reveal. So again, you start out calculating with the suits. The diamonds we treat as 0, of course, because they represent 4, and we constantly subtract 4. So here we go. We start off with this diamond 0, next diamond 0, next diamond 0. We get club 1 plus heart with 2, that's 3. We go to this club, which is now 4. We're down to 0. We're at this spade, which is 3. Carry that over to this club, which is 4. We're down to 0 now. We carry it over 0. We start fresh with this heart here, with this Jack of Hearts peeking out. So now we're at 2. Add that to the club. We're 3. And then lastly, with this heart, we add 2 to the 3, brings us to 5. And of course, right away, we subtract 4. Always subtract 4. We're down to 1. Okay, so With that one remaining, what we're going to do with that remaining number is we're going to immediately subtract that number from the maximum value for suits, which is 4. So remember to subtract whatever number you end up with from 4. 1 from 4, of course, gives us 3. And then what you're going to do with this new number, 3, is you simply add it to your key card suit. Our key card suit being heart, we're going to add that to 3. Hearts are 2, right? So 2 plus 3 gives us 5. And always, 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 even when you're calculating and figuring out whatever, you get rid of the maximum value number, 4. So we get 4 away from 5. That leaves us with 1. 1 tells us that that card in the packet that they're thinking of is a club. Okay, did you see how that worked? So you got the total values, you come up with that new key number. You immediately remember to subtract that key number from the maximum value 4. That brings you to 3. You take that new number and you add it to your key card suit. That will give you the result for whatever their card is that's missing that you couldn't count. All right? So that again brings us to a club. That tells us that the card that they're thinking of is a club in this packet. Obviously, it's going to be the 4 of clubs, right? So we figured out the suit. Okay, we don't know the value yet though when we're doing this trick. We just know the suit. So we figure out we can play it out like, okay, it's a black card. It's definitely a club. So we got that. Now you got to figure out the value. So you're playing like you're trying to get an impression, but while you're doing that, you're calculating now the values. So you quickly add 9 plus 6, it brings you to 15. Get rid of the 13, that brings us to 2, plus 7, that gives us 9. To the 6, that's 15. Get rid of 13, we're down to 2. Plus 8 is 10. Plus 7 is 17. Get rid of the 13, we're down to 4. Plus 10 is 14. Get rid of 13, we're down to 1. Plus 8 is 9. Plus 11 is 20. Get rid of 13, we're down to 7. Plus 9 is 16. Get rid of 13, we're down to 3. And plus 4 is 7. So that's our final number, 7. So we take that 7, immediately subtract it now from the maximum value number, 13. Okay, remember that. So you subtract 7 from 13, and what does that give you? That gives you 6. All right? You take that 6 and you add it now to your key card value. So 6 plus our jack gives us 17, right? Jack being 11. So we get 17. Now immediately we subtract 13 from 17, and that gives us 4. So that tells us the value in this packet, or the card that they're thinking of. Obviously, and then the suit, we remembered that we also mentioned the clubs. So 4 of clubs, and of course you're right, it's the 4 of clubs. Now before you lift the box up, you're also going to know that it's the second card from the bottom of the packet. Now, in this case, it's actually going to be the third card down in these 4 card piles. So you're going to say, okay, I sense that, okay, you get the 4 clubs, and I also sense that it's actually the third card down in this pile. So sure enough, you spread the cards carefully to show that the third card happens to be their memorized card, the 4 of clubs. So that'll blow them away also. So that's sort of a little kicker at the end also. So that's how that works. Now just remember though, it's just these two rows that have 4 card piles. You got to remember when you go to reveal the second card from the bottom in the top row, you're dealing with 5 cards. So you're going to have to say it's the 4th card down, okay? Just remember to do that for that. Okay, and so that's how the trick works. So, you know, it's pretty self-explanatory for the card that ends up on the top of the packets. It's the same thing. It's a lot easier because you can readily see all the cards all the time. And of course, remember when you go to do the reveal for the top face-up card, it's a different number down. It's going to be the 4th card for the 4 card piles, of course, or the 5th card down for the 5 card piles on the top row. All right. So I hope that all makes sense to you. This is hard cramming it all in one video, but I think I'm going to have to do a little editing to really condense this a little more. So I hope that makes sense, and I hope you like it. So thanks for watching. We'll talk to you later.